schmoly. Welcome back, everybody, to DEFCON 5, a series about a couple, actually not a couple, about 10 defenders and controllers that I am playing here on the City of Heroes Homecoming servers, Excelsior Shard. I'm taking a look at 5 different defenders versus 5 different controllers, each pair of which is sharing a common support set in the game. Try and answer the age-old question, which of these two archetypes is the best? Is your superior support archetype in the game? In DEFCON 5, we took a look at electrical affinity and got some interesting results, which gave a lot more damage from these two classes than I was expecting. Today, we're going to be moving ourselves down to DEFCON 4, taking a look at one of my favorite buff sets in the game. One that came out right before the game closed. I think it was the very last of the sets in the entire game that came out. I believe it was the very last one when the game shuttered. And that, of course, is the old Nature Affinity. And this power set, taking a look at its description in the wiki over on the City of Data, it says you have command over the forces of nature and able to call forth primal energies to aid your allies and hinder your foes. Many of your powers place a bloom effect on you and your allies, and each stack of bloom boosts healing effects on the affected targets. So this set was very heavy on regeneration, healing, and absorb. That was its main thing. Just kind of rebirth and energy and vitality, I think, was what they were going for. And man, it is such a good set, such a strong set. And when it was first announced, right at the end of the game shuttering, before anybody knew the game was closing, I wasn't very excited about this set, to be honest with you. I was like, oh gosh, nature. That sounds stupid. Oh, you're gonna grow what, grass or something like that. So I didn't give it much, interest. I don't think I actually bought it right away. I was a vet off by like 1 month from when the game had started, so I've been playing since the beginning, and so I think I think there had credits back then or whatever at that point if you were subscribed and whatever. I don't think I spent it on that. I was, I don't know if I'm gonna buy this thing. Yeah, I've been there, done that. I've seen all kinds of support. This is healing set, whatever. Snooze. But then when I'm almost positive I might have got it right before the game closed and tinkered with it a little bit just to see. But it really wasn't until Homecoming came out. What was it? 3 years ago, 4 years ago now? It seems like forever. That I really started playing it and got one to 50, and I think now I've got 4 or maybe 5 of them at level 50. Defenders, controllers. I might even have a corruptor with it. Off the top of my head, I think I do. But anyway, today we're going to be taking a look at, not just today, but over the next week or two, we'll be taking a look at Nature Affinity, because I have cooked up for us our next challenge here at DEFCON 4. We have one new defender and a new controller going to go head to head and take a look at what these powers do. So before we shine a light on these two characters, let's go ahead and take a look at what the set's all about and what the powers are going to do for your characters, so that we then look at each individual character I'm going to show you. You can kind of see, are there any synergies that he's going for? Is there any sort of theme that's happening here? So let's go ahead and dive into this. All right, so let's go ahead and take a closer look at this awesome power set. Magnify this bad boy. Boom. Look at that. Tricky, tricky. All right, so here we go. We've got interesting lineup. It reminds me a little bit of Electrical Affinity, but I think it's better. Now, Electrical Affinity I think is stronger buff-wise, just because it's so fast and you can chain away on people as long as you don't have too many allies or facing allies. But very similar in the concept as far as buffing and supporting, and a lot of the same basic features: healing, regeneration to hit buffing, etc., etc. But I think it's overall maybe better in the sense of for like large groups. I think it's superior in that sense. It's more of a fire and forget type of buff set where Electro Affinity was much more reactive, and you had to be Johnny on the spot. But anyway, let's take a look. You've got, first things first, we've got a level 1 single target debuffing power. This is pretty standard with most of the buff sets. They have a level 1 single target debuff, and this one minus resistance, minus damage. So, it's not something you would spam on like a minion or a lieutenant, but you got a hard boss, elite boss, arch villain, something like that. You're trying to whittle them down. This is definitely going to be a useful thing to be spamming away because it's going to make them easier to kill because you're lowering their damage resistance, and you're going to lower their outgoing damage, so it'll keep you a little bit safer. Then the rest of these are, I think, two, except for one other one, are all AoE patches, cones, PB AoE bursts, lots of targets that you can affect with all of these things. Regrowth, this is your heal power, and this is the first one. I think it's the only one in the game, and this was one of the weird things about it when it first came out. It's a forward-facing cone heal. So in other words, most heals in the game are either, bloom effects, no pun intended to what we're going to talk about in a second. But they would, if this was you, your character, they would aura bloom around you, or you would have, let's say, a target that you would hit with it and it would bloom around it. Okay, that's what I mean by this auras or blooms, like PBOE type of thing. So, but this is the first one in the game where we've got a cone. So, if this is you standing to heal people, you're going to spray your effect out in front of you. So only your allies that are standing within the cone are going to get this healing. I think the cone actually originates from your back because I've seen people standing, right next to me get healed from it. So I think it pretty much the origin is like right behind you, like where your back is, your spine, and then it shoots out, and it's a fairly wide cone, so it's not that hard to heal with it. But it does make the set more challenging than say just an aura heal that you're just bursting around you. So keep that in mind. So it's a little bit like Electro Affinity in that regard. We have to be facing what you want to get the heals, seeing what's going on. So it's going to give a minor heal. It's not like going to save somebody's butt if they've taken huge gobs of damage. But what it does start to do is tick healing over time. And it's going to give you a bloom point. And I think we want to pause quick, talk about, hey, what the heck is bloom? Let me go ahead and pull up City of Data so you can see. Give me 1 second here. All right, here is City of Data. And I'm going to pull up my defenders here. Let me clear this out of the way. We've got Defender. We want Nature Affinity. And I want to scoot this over so you guys can see it. Shift it this way. 1 second. Man, you're not prepared. What? Hold on, guys. Hold on. I almost got it. Scooty scoot. Let me pause this so you don't have to watch me move windows. There we go. Much better. And let me get my pretty face back on the screen for you so it feels like we're live. We're together having a conversation over some coffee or whatever it is you're drinking. So anyway, we're taking a look at Nature Affinity and Bloom. So here's Regrowth. Let's click on that. The numbers on it, are not huge. So if you take a look down here, this is what you're going to get, raw. You're getting 20 healing points every second for 4 seconds. And then you have that initial burst of healing of 100. So basically, unslotted, you're looking at what, 180 healing. Not huge, right? But it's fairly spammable. The recharge on it is 10 seconds. You can get that down to like 5 pretty easily. And then, of course, you slot it up. It's going to be healing like 200 or whatever. And, these are defender numbers. So if you're looking at controllers, their numbers will be a little bit lower. I forget what the percent difference, like 10% difference between the two archetypes. So anyway, that's the basic healing. But what we really want to look at is this bloom thing. So let's pull that up. And what this is going to do is it's going to give you -4% resistance healing damage. Like what? What's that mean? Translations up here in the description. The healing you receive is increased by +4% per stack, and you can stack up to 5 times. So every time you use a power that has a bloom effect on yourself or one of your allies, they're going to get a bloom point on them. And whenever they get any healing, that healing is going to be increased by 4%. And it can go up to 20% because it can stack 5 times and it lasts for 30 seconds before it wears off. So you can bloom away on people and then boost your overall healing, upwards of 20%. So the initial, low numbers are not as bad as they seem because this is unslotted. It doesn't apply the bloom, blah blah blah, etc., etc., etc. So you can heal decent amounts of damage once you kind of get that thing fired up. All right, let me go ahead and switch us back to the show. Boom, not that one. Where are we? Here we go. All right, so that's the story on Bloom. So if you take a look, that is like the thing that Nature Affinity does. Now, the other thing, I'll kind of give you a little background story about this. If you know a lot of the powers in the game as they come out, being released, they have like a thing they do, a shtick, right? We talked about this in Electrical Affinity with the shocked mechanic and the static stuff. Um, I don't quote me on this, but I feel pretty confident in saying this that the bloom idea was the first instance of that in the game. Okay, I'm pretty dang sure it was like we're one of the first couple. So when power sets were first released, they were pretty vanilla, right? They did a damage and they had some sort of debuff or something like that, right? And you had your different types of damage and debuffs that went with them, like Dark Blast stuff was negative damage and it did minus to hit. Fire damage, Fire Blast had fire damage and it did like DOT, high damage burning stuff. So everything kind of had its own like baked in, shtick. But as the game proceeded or progressed, I assume the developers needed something new, to new and shiny. So they came up with these effect ideas, these I don't know what you want to call them, sub mechanics or something like that. So things like bloom, shock, static, blah blah blah. You see this in a lot of powers nowadays, but this I think was one of the first times this was actually introduced in the game, and this would have been like I said the few months before the game shuttered. Because I'm 99% sure Nature Affinity was the last official set they got released, and it was a few months before they announced the game was closing, which obviously pissed a lot of people off, especially the people who actually spent money on this set and you only got to play it for a few months before they shut down the servers. But hey, that's a long time ago. Now the game's back. It's free, right? So you can bloom away like a beast. So boom, hey, that's regrowth. What else we got in this set that you want to take advantage of or look forward to as we get into this comparison? We've got wild growth. This power is awesome. It reminds me of Faraday Cage, right? It's got a big old resistance to it, right? And it's going to add some regen and give you 2 bloom. Now, by the way, this is something that I think Electrical Affinity could use because this was something that I was commenting on and when I was playing my controller and my defender didn't have a problem building up static. But I think in Electrical Affinity, they don't have a lot of ways to build up static. But if you take a look at this power set, Nature, check out all these ways you can get bloom, right? I mean, you're blooming like crazy. It's easy as can be. So I think Electrical Affinity needs maybe, like, I don't know, I don't think Faraday Cage builds static. It should, just kind of like you see here with Wild Growth. So anyway, you click this thing, it's going to give you a big old, resistance to a bunch of different, I think, all damage types. That's awesome. It's also going to increase your regeneration rate for your allies. And that's going to give everybody, 2 bloom. So if you do hit them with a heal, that's going to translate into what, an 8% boost to their healing that you hit them with. So that power, you want it, you're going to get it slotted up and ready to go. Spore Cloud, this is the type of power that, a lot of sets have and a lot of sets don't have, and that is a toggle debuff. There's a lot of toggles in this set. Here's one, here's one, here's one. So the thing going to watch out for toggles, a couple things. One is endurance. So in order to turn on your toggle, you got to spend endurance. So you're going to be spending a certain amount of endurance per second, or what you'll hear me refer to in my build videos. I call like your endurance bleed. All right, so you're hemorrhaging or bleeding out endurance. If you have too many toggles going, this is just potentially 3 in this set. And then let's say you've got your shield toggle from your epic set. You've got a toggle for leadership pool, whatever, right? You can make your character a bit I guess bleeding, hemorrhaging, right? They can start to lose a lot of endurance. But what does it do? It's a foe, so you target a foe, and anybody who's wearing your toggle or near that person is debuffed. So a lot of toggles like this one will have debuffing properties. So they're foe targeting, and they're going to lower its damage, lower its hit, lower its regen. The minus damage is a nice thing that you can stack here with your corrosive enzymes. But that then kind of leads to another issue with toggles, is that because it's foe attached, these guys can run. And if they run, that can lead to aggro. So if they run past another group, let's say wearing your toggle, that'll trigger that other group to be alerted, and they're going to come after you because it's your effect. So be mindful of that playing defender, controller, corruptor, whatever with this toggle. If your toggles, your anchors, as we would say, if they run or get away from you, that can lead to extra aggro, and all of a sudden a bunch of group comes around the corner to go beat your face in. This is especially true. Typically, watch who you're going to throw your toggle on, because if it's a teleporter like a sorcerer or like a gunslinger, or what is it, the ones in the bot, not the bots, the sky raiders there, those teleporters, right? There's groups that teleport, so if you throw your toggle on it and they start teleporting around, they can aggro a couple different rooms from across the map to come running after you. But this is also something you can take advantage of with the old toggle pull. So you can do toggle pulling with this set, which is something that I like to do. So in other words, what you'll do is you'll throw your anchor onto a target, and that will cause aggro, as I just said, and that group will come a running to come and get you. Now, of course, if you're smart, you have gone around a corner. So as they come around, you've got your kill box set up right here waiting for them. Okay. So that's something, we'll talk about, and hopefully you'll get to see that when I do some solo work and when I do the team videos a little bit later. But that's what Sport Cloud is going to do. It's a nice, debuffing, power. It's the sort of thing that, Electrical Affinity does not have. It doesn't have big old debuffy toggles. Then it has this next toggle, Life-Giving Spores. Again, this is sort of a weird one, kind of similar to Regrowth, where it's weird. You got a cone. What this one does is it's a patch. Don't be confused by ally. You don't put it on an ally. I don't know why this says that. It helps your allies, I guess, but well, I don't guess, I know, but it's a patch. It's a location. So you drop it somewhere on the ground near you, around you, at a distance, whatever, and anybody in that patch's circumference within the diameter here is going to have healing over time, and they're going to gain some endurance. So again, a couple more buffs. This is going to play nicely with the bloom effects because they'll get more healing over time. It's going to play nicely with the regen. It's going to play nicely with your regrowth and that heal over time. So you're going to have heal over time, regen, heal over time, as long as your allies stand at your patch, which is pretty easy. It's a fairly quick recharging power, as long as you remember to turn it off and turn it back on again when you go to your next location, because it will just sit there and never move. Then your next power, this is the other wild one. So this is your defensive wild growth. You got Wild Bastion. This is a second of one of these PBOE bursting defensive powers. This one's going to give absorb and heal over time and add a 3 bloom to everybody. So absorb, that's like your temporary HP you can get. Heal over time, that's just ticks of your green bar, but that's going to add up with this one, with this one, with this one, plus the regen that's going. So you've got a third power here that's got this heal over time combined with the absorb that it's throwing out there, combined with the regeneration. You can see how easy it is for a character with nature to keep people alive just from a green bar standpoint. You're not throwing a bunch of defense shields or resistance shields out there. You're not spamming, your circuits like I was doing with Electro Affinity. You're just spamming and bursting out, bloom fueled, heal over time, regen, absorb type of stuff. Then your next power is rebirth. Now this is a res, which I've kind of shot these down in the last few videos I've talked about. Let me get my melon out of the way here. Here I am talking about these things. You can't see them. Move my webcam. Let me move my face over here. The magic of television. So anyway, if you take a look at rebirth, it's one of these single target reses that I typically don't take. However, this is one of the first ones and one of the too few ones, in my opinion, that does something beyond a res. So you don't have to use it as a res. It's actually a single target heal over time. It's not as strong as, let's say, Empathy's, was it Share Pain? It is. It's not anywhere near that strong, but you can use it as a single target, burst heal, and then it'll tick heals over time. Plus, it throws Bloom on there. So it's a nice pick because you're not waiting for somebody to die to finally get to use it. You can use it on living targets and do a little extra healing, which is a nice complement to your regrowth cone, your life-giving spore patch, all these other, regen things, wild bastions, a burst. This gives you a single target option as well. And then you have what may be the most OP crazy. I don't know why they changed this power in the game, and they did this just not to this one, but I think Choking Cloud's another example in radiation emission. Entangling Aura. This is an aura power that swirls around your character, and it holds targets. But I think it's auto hit now. This is why I'm going like, huh? I'm like Homecoming Squad, for some reason, made these aura holds auto hit. Now they're low mag, okay? They're like mag 2, I think it is. But there are sets out there you can add, or there are incarnates and stuff that you can add where this mag can be increased. And even though it's only mag 2, even if I don't increase it, I'm already locking out any minion that even gets close to me. And it's a short little time, but I can slot this up. I can slot it up for hold duration. I can slot it up for hold mag. I can slot it up for damage procs. So it's super powerful, this auto hit. And I don't even know what the endurance cost is anymore, because they've also gotten rid of some of these endurances or lowered them a lot. I know back in the day you had to slot it for it to hit. You had to slot it for, endurance. So it's way easier to use. Maybe that was the reason. I know there's a lot of Q quality of life, QOL changes Homecoming made. A lot of them are good, but a couple like this, I don't agree with it. Like why? This power is so OP now. I mean, if you're not taking Entangling Aura, there's something wrong with you. Take that power. It's like an instant hold, and especially like controllers or dominator, sorry, not dominators, but controllers, right? You already got a bunch of holds. Now you got a holding aura. It makes your containment like fire off. Spoiler. Anyway, and then the last power in this set that I want to take a look at is, or talk about, is your tier 9, your overgrowth. This is your big old boomy, click PV AoE again. So we've got 3 of these clickable auras that burst. This one's resistance, this one's absorb, regen and healing, bloom. This one's your offensive one. Okay, these 2 guys are defensive. This is your offensive burst here. Damage to hit, endurance discount, and 5 bloom. So look at all the ways you can get bloom built up just by clicking your powers. All right, you can bloom away. If you're easily gonna have 5 bloom stacks, you're gonna be doing plus 20% healing pretty much all the time. So it's a real easy set to get lots of pretty green numbers flying across your screen. And most newbie people, when they see pretty green, they think you are doing a hell of a job as a buffer. They don't really care about the rest of this. They just see their health is staying, stationary. It's not moving. But, is what it is. All right, so there you go. That is the Nature Affinity set. Now, I know what your big question is, well, who the heck are you going to be messing with? What characters are you going to be applying this to that are going to be the shiz of this test? Well, you don't have to wait any longer. We're going to go ahead and take a look. My plan in this head-to-head competition is for the following characters. In the blue corner, representing the defenders with their combination of buffs and blasts, we have Skreaming Tree. He is Nature Affinity, Sonic Blast, Energy Mastery. Interesting. Versus in the red corner, we have Fey Wode, a Dark Control, Nature Affinity, Dark Mastery controller. I know what you're saying, like DC, Electro Affinity, the controller you used was Plant Control. That's the most powerful control set out there. And now here you are in round 2, pitting your poor defender against the other most powerful control set out there, Dark Control. This is unfair. Is it? Is it unfair? I dare you to go back and take a look at the numbers on the electrical affinity comparison, and you tell me if that controller just absolutely dominated that defender, or was it the other way around? So I'm not as nervous, perhaps, as some of you for this defender here. But let's go ahead and take a look and see what I'm cooking up here. Let's see if anything makes sense, or if you are really scared for this poor defender. So Skreaming Tree, what's his story? Nature, Sonic, Energy. The idea here is that he is an aerial guardian. He's going to be using that extensive set of Nature AoE buffs, plus he's going to have the leadership pool going, because defenders get awesome numbers, the best numbers in the game for the leadership toggles. And he's going to be using that combination to supply lots of to hit, lots of healing, lots of regen, lots of, resistance, damage, blah, 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 you name it. He's got it. He's also going to be stacking something from his blast set, kind of the way I was exploiting Electrical Blast over with my E cubed Emperor Avenger. Defenders have these blast sets, and those blast sets have nice, buffing or debuffing stuff attached to them that you, if you're smart, are going to take advantage of. Use them, my defender friend. I don't blast because my blasts are so weak and so feeble. Who's telling you that? Those people don't know what they're talking about. So you're gonna go ahead and you're gonna stack a bunch of damage resistance debuffing, because that's what Sonic is famous for. And your defender has really good numbers, right? They have the best debuff buff, bonus numbers in the game. So you're going to take advantage of that, and that's going to increase your output as well as the team's damage output. The other thing that Sonic brings to the table is a lot of soft control. There's knockdown, there's sleep, there's stun, there's a low mag hold as well with the entangling aura. So you put all that together, that's going to give you some nice little options for damage mitigation beyond the healing and damage resistance stuff. And last but not least, I'm going to take advantage with this character of his high maneuverability and positioning. He's going to be hovering. He's got wings, so he's going to be flying, hovering over the fight. He's going to be, trying to maintain range. He's going to have a decent amount of AoE defense. When I get into his build, you'll see what I'm talking about. And just stick up to the air. Stay away from melee as best you can. And just shriek and scream from above the enemy. And keep his patches and toggles and whatever else firing to keep his allies supported. So that's what Skreaming Tree is all about. And then Sonic Attack, if you haven't looked at this set before, we'll take a quick sneaky peek here on this so you can see what I'm talking about. So here it is. It says that with Sonic Attack, You're using the powers of sound waves to damage and weaken your foes. The weakening I'm talking about is the damage resistance debuffing. And if you go look down at the table here with all of the powers, you'll see Shriek minus resistance, Scream minus resistance, Howl minus resistance, Shout minus resistance. You've got Screech minus resistance, Dreadful Wail minus resistance. So what is that? 6 out of the 9 powers have minus damage resistance. And this is stackable in some cases. That's what this part is talking about. If you look at the stats, we'll take a quick peek at City of Data again. But if you look at Sonic Attack in City of Data, it's got 2 different types of sonic vibration effects that it applies to targets. One of them, it's a short vibrations. It typically has like a lower sorry, it lowers resistances. So short vibrations lowers resistance by a varying amount. I've seen it somewhere between 8 and 20%, depending on which attack we're talking about. With 8 being your single targets usually, and the 20 being your big old whale down here. And then the other minus resistance debuff it throws out there are these incremental vibrations, and these are typically lower numbers, equal or less. I think 8% is pretty much the standard for these, but you can stack these 4 times, so that's like another 32%. So you're going to take 32-ish, you're going to take somewhere, let's say about 10 or whatever, so you're easily going to be stacking 40 to 50% damage resistance debuff just by screaming your head off and constantly spamming your sonic attacks over and over again. That's a huge, huge damage resistance debuff, and you've got it in most of your powers. Then the other thing you're looking at here is you've got some controls. You've got Shockwave sitting here, which this is a knockback power, which I don't have a problem with knockback myself, right? I mean, as long as somebody's using it smartly and knocking things into a corner or something like that, I don't have an issue with that. So that's no big deal. Let me zoom in on this a little bit so you can see. Oops, where is it? Magnify slide again. There we go. I guess to see a little better. So you've got Shockwave here doing its knockback thing, and you can slot that for knockdown if you want to. It's not a big deal. But if you just use it smart, it's great control. I mean, you're gonna keep somebody out of the fight for 3, 4, 5 seconds, depending on where you knock them. They got to stand back up. Whatever else happens. I've knocked people into geometry where they get stuck, and you just pummel them, and they can't even move. Now, you don't want to knock them out of the geometry or through the geometry. That's a risk usually in cave maps, because then you can't target them at all. But you have that. You got a sleep right here with Siren Song. Don't like poo-poo sleeps. This is a damaging sleep as well. So you do the Siren Song, it hits them with damage, and then the sleep kicks in. Very powerful opening attack if you hit them with this, because you can boom, they're sleeping. You can also open with Shockwave, that'll knock them flying. Then you have a single target Screech, which has a single target disorient. That stacks nicely if you take Dreadful Wail. This is your big old tier 9 nuke, PB AoE, lots of damage, but it has this awesome foe stun disorient as well. So you got stunning, sleeping, knocking back, all this minus resistance going on. And then you have your own self buff here to hit and damage with amplify. So this is a very powerful attacking set for defenders. So we're gonna take advantage of that. That's what defenders do. All right, onto our controller. In the red corner, we've got Fey Wode, and she is, I think, maybe one of my favoritist controllers, and she's probably one of the last ones or most recent ones I've created. But man, I love her. Her theme, her concept is just awesome. Dark Control. I like Dark Control. Very strong set. Nature Affinity. I already told you I like Nature Affinity. I'm pretty cool with Dark Mastery as well. I mean, Dark Current. That's my triple D defender, right? So I like dark powers. I love the negative energy. I like the minus to hit on them. So she's gonna have lots of that minus to hit flying with her powers. So her concept is she's a night terror. She's this dark fairy, this dark fey spirit. She's born like Hag's Blood. Again, I'm kind of going RP theme with my controller again here. But you'll see that this actually is going to be a little more mechanical as well. It fits in this idea of she's going to scare the shit out of you, and it's going to be just dark, twisting vines and stuff, just murdering you while you try to journey through the forest. No. So Dark Fairy Spirit, born of Hag's Blood. She's wielding the powers of Shadow and the Vengeful trees for haunted, nightmare-filled forest. So her main goal is she's going to pin enemies immediately upon, getting close to them. Going to debuff with fear. I've got the big old hold bubble with, what is it, Shadow, what the heck's the name of that big old hold bubble? I forget what it's called. Immobilize control. So I'm going to pin the enemy in place. They're not going to move. And then once I've got them locked down there, I can have my nature buffs, the patches, the toggles deployed on or around these guys to either buff my teammates or debilitate my foes. And then once they're all kind of all snug as a bug in my dark little rug here, the pets go after them, right? My teammates are on them. The foes are debilitated. They're suffering the minus to hit. They got minus damage as well. All right, so they're not gonna be able to hit me, and if they do, it's gonna be lower damage. Because remember, the Spore Cloud is minus to hit, I believe, and minus damage. You also have your single target. What is that? Level 1 power again. I'm drawing a blank. I just talked about it. Oh my gosh, nature. Corrosive enzymes, right? Minus damage on corrosive enzymes. Right? We've got minus damage here. You got Spore Cloud, minus damage, minus to hit. And then my powers are hitting him with a bunch of minus to hit. On top of everything else, all these powers in Dark Control, you'll see have a lot of minus to hit with them. So let's go take a look at that next. So we got Shadow Binds, single target immobilize, Dark Grass, single target hold, and then Living Shadows, there's your AoE cone-shaped immobilize. Pretty standard 1, 2, 3 for all controller sets. So what we're doing here, controlling darkness, we're controlling shadow, we're disabling foes with negative energy. That's the minus to hit we're talking about. And enemies are affected by many of our attacks are going to have their chance to hit reduced. So just looking at that, there's a minus to hit here, minus to hit, minus to hit, minus to hit, minus to hit, minus to hit. Combine that with Spore Clouds minus to hit. It's going to be really hard for the enemy to hit me. And they're doing the reduced damage for some of them. And I then have multiple pets that are going to be on top of them attacking, right? You got the Umbra Beast, okay, who also has minus to hit in their attacks. You've got the Haunts, couple little Spectre Ghost things that go after them. I believe they're doing minus to hit as well. So you got these 3 pets. If you have your lore pets out there, there's a couple more attacking them. Shadowfield, that's the name of that AoE location AoE hold. Actually, I love, this is probably my most favoritist AoE holds out there is that one. Great power, just awesome. And I don't want to talk too much about it because we'll get into it when I look at the build in the build video. But as you can see, there's lots of options here for not just control, but debuff. Fearsome Stare, that's a great opening attack, right? Cone, Fear, minus to hit. If you slot it for this, even if they do get to attack you, it's going to have less chance to hit you. Love me some Heart of Darkness, charging up into melee, exploding that. Everybody's stunned, great. Probably the crappiest power on this set is Possess. The animation, I don't like it. It's really slow. Again, I don't want to spoil too much in the build video, but not a fan. But look at all that minus to hit. Look at all this control you've got. You're gonna stack this up beautifully, I think, with the buffs that are coming out of your nature set, because this is gonna pin them in place. This combination of powers here, that's gonna free you up to get those nature toggles or patches and stuff put down. All right, so that takes us to the end of our show, and of course, the big money question: who's gonna win? Is it gonna be Skreaming Tree using nature, sonic, and energy to shred his enemies, damage resistance, while keeping his allies nice and buffed up with all that pretty green juice? Or is it going to be Fey Wode, who's going to pin the enemies with all kinds of minus to hit attacks from her controls, and then have the patches and the buffs keeping her allies churning and burning along with her pets as they just mash and macerate the enemy. Leave your thoughts, your comments in the section. Well, leave your thoughts and your questions in the comments section below. And of course, don't forget to subscribe so that when I get the next video out, because we need to start with one of these two. And you know what? Maybe we should. Do we want to spoil that right now? Do we want to know who we're starting with? I think yes. Let's flip a coin again. Which of these two characters should we start with? This way, you know exactly what's coming next. Uh, and then you can kind of leave before I actually post that video. Put down your thoughts below. Who's gonna win? Who's better? A lot of people I've seen comment, at least on the forums, are big subscribers of the controller is probably gonna be better for the stated reasons of synergy between buffs and controls. But so far, my electrical affinity data isn't agreeing with that per se. So we'll see. Let me go get the coin flip out, and we'll decide. 1 second. All right, here we go. We've got our coin. So just like last time, if it comes up heads, defender Skreaming Tree goes first. If it comes up tails, then our controller, the Fey Wode, is going to go first. Who's it going to be this time? Defender, controller, flip. Dang, the defenders are taking charge. So, our next video is gonna be our friend, the Birdman himself. We're gonna be taking a look at Skreaming Tree. Spoiler, I love his costume. I think you're gonna like it too. I mean, this picture's kind of close, actually. I wish we could do more with the costume creator and these anthropomorphic costumes, but yeah, I mean, he kind of looks like this. And then Fey Wode, I think this also looks pretty close to what she looks like. So we're gonna start with Skreaming Tree. We're gonna go through his build with mids, talk about design philosophies. I gave you a little bit of spoiler about what he's gonna be designed to do. We'll take a look at what sets I'm choosing. Take a look at the hard numbers, and then we'll run a solo mission. Just one, probably just +0 ×8, level 50 stuff. Maybe some council just to go and kind of set a baseline, talk about his powers, and show you what they do. And then we'll go ahead and roll them on a team of 5. So I get the data collected like I did with the DEFCON 5. And then we'll flip it over. We're going to go ahead and have Fey Wode follow it up, look at her build, have her do a little solo run, and then get another team of 5 running 5 missions, gather the data, crunch the numbers, analyze it for everybody, and then let you see it. All right, there you go, guys and gals. I appreciate your time and taking a look at the video. We'll catch you in the next one. We're going to be talking about Skreaming Tree. Have yourselves a happy holiday.